are a lot of great stories. Even Sam Darnold, I think it's a great story. Is he a great player? Well, this is a perfect fit in Minnesota. I'd pay him $40 million. I couldn't pay him $55. You can't confuse the two. I think Pete Carroll's looking for work, and he's a smart guy. I think John Snyder, the Seahawks general manager, is a top 5 or 6 GM. All my guys in the league respect him and like him. Smart guy. This is a good roster. But two smart guys talk themselves into, hey, this is a great story, and it's good enough. Geno Smith's not good enough. Seattle could have, and I preached it before the draft, moved up. They were 16th in the draft. They could have moved up to get Bo Nix, Michael Penix, and J.J. McCarthy. And they sat there satisfied. Geno Smith's passer rating has gone down 3 years in a row as his weapons have gotten better. Last night, Chicago punted 7 times. The weather wasn't a big factor. Seattle has the much deeper, better roster. They have excellent wide receiver talent, as J. Mack alluded to. You can tell Smith and Jigba and DK Metcalf are not happy campers. After that red zone near disaster, the team shut it down. Mike McDonald, I don't know him that well. You can tell does not have a ton of confidence in Geno. Once again, the passer rating is down. The interceptions are up, but it was hard to watch. And that's my number one concern on defensive coaches. I remember Ron Rivera was at Washington. Sam Howell's good enough. No, he's not. Go draft a quarterback. Geno Smith is good enough. No, he's not. Not in a division with McVay and Stafford and Kyle Shanahan. Even Kyler Murray's talented. And here's the other troubling thing. When you get these opportunities in the NFL to go for it, you can't just sit back and hope it works out for you. San Francisco, big cap space next year. Rams, big cap space next year. Arizona, big cap space, plus $50 million, all of them. Seattle's got no cap space. Right now they should have a rookie quarterback, struggling a bit. They'd probably have the same record. But don't tell me the roster's not good. Murphy is an excellent defensive tackle. I would have passed on him to get the quarterback right. I mean, it's nice that they got him. They've got a great cornerback in Witherspoon. They've got pass rushers. They got dudes everywhere. This is a really good roster. It reminds me a lot of the Indianapolis Colts. They're just missing the quarterback. If you put an elite quarterback in Seattle or the Colts, you got a 12-win team, in my opinion. And the division was there for the taking. San Francisco is right in the middle now. They're getting old, expensive, and brittle. Christian McCaffrey hurt, there for the taking. Rams were the walking wounded in September and October. Division was there for the taking. Arizona has imploded late. There for the taking.
Okay. So I'm fascinated to hear how Seattle Seahawks fans feel about this. You know, whether or not they Geno's the problem, and that if they had a better quarterback, they would be they would be like a 12-win, 12, 13-win team is what Colin's saying. That's a top team in the NFL, all right? Like that's so. I'm so curious because I know a lot of Seahawks fans absolutely love Geno Smith. The one thing that's very obvious to me, actually, in general, is that each fan base really loves and defends their quarterback to like the bitter end, except for honestly. Probably the Philadelphia Eagles. There might be another team or so. I'd have to think about it a little bit longer. But like, because they obviously the Eagles have a lot of defenders of their various quarterbacks, and obviously currently Jalen Hurts. But like, they're more willing to be like, get this guy out of here. Like, move on from him. Get him out of here. Bring us someone new. Whereas other fan bases, I see it's so much more. The vast majority, 80, 90%, they defend their quarterback to the bitter end. Where I would say maybe like an example of Philly is probably maybe more like 50-50. Depending on the day, it could be, swayed in one direction or the other. But so that's where I'm curious to see how people feel about Geno, because Geno, I don't even want to say confuse the good story for the reality of the situation. It's just that I think Geno is just appears to be such a good person that he is the type of person and player that you want to see succeed. I say this about Tua as well. Like, these are the types of people that I want to see genuinely succeed in the NFL, in life in general. Like, I want, because the league and just professional sports in general is just littered with people who feel like it almost makes you feel uncomfortable seeing them be so successful, have fame, and have money, because you're like, there's a great chance you're probably not a good person. And you're just like, it always feels weird when you see people who you just don't think are good people or who have proven not to be good people. And I don't need to name names. We got plenty of examples of those people. And I don't always hold people's feet to the fire for people making mistakes. Like I'm a very forgiving person, but you can get a feel. You can get a feel, just even something as basic as interviews. You can get a feel. You can be like, I bet you that guy is probably not the nicest person out there. And Geno just seems to be like genuinely a great guy. And so like you want to see him succeed. And I know it's something that I always wrestle with. But for me, the way how I view Geno, and I'm not some like, Geno Smith truther where I'm like, no, man, he's really a top quarterback. He's this, he's that, blah, 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 blah. I think Geno just fits into the category where if you give him a great situation with a great coach, and really the coach more than anything, he really needs that true offensive mind right there with him. I think then he could have very high levels of success. But I think his ability to be resilient in anything less than that situation, he can really kind of fall. I think it's just like it is hit for him to have success. He needs to be in a very, very specific, high quality situation. Like the 49ers the last couple of seasons, not this season. Those types of situations. Like I think if he was with the Minnesota Vikings with Kevin O'Connell, he could have tremendous success. So I think when you have a quarterback like Geno, you can be put in a position where maybe you feel like you're not as resilient and you can't overcome. But I just don't think it's 100% fair to also put everything on Geno, because this team has dealt with their share of injuries. They've dealt with their own adversity. And again, you could always make the argument that a quarterback needs to do better to overcome some of these things. It just seems like that becomes more and more of a myth, honestly. This idea that these great quarterbacks can just consistently and reliably overcome situations. And the more I watch these games unfold, the more I watch these players all grow and evolve, the Mahomeses, the Allens, the Lamars of the world, and I really try to keep it to like this era, this relevant. So like not trying to go back to Brett Favre and whoever. And you really kind of see the ebbs and flows of a season. You see the ups and downs. You see what it's like to have a great coach with a great quarterback but minimal weapons, or what it's like to have a great quarterback and great weapons but an average coach. Like you see all the various combinations, and it's just so clear that the vast majority of the time, vast majority of the time, like even these all-time great quarterbacks still need to be in a great supportive situation. And so that's always what you have to ask yourself when evaluating a quarterback. Is the situation itself good enough where you should have high levels of success with said quarterback? And if the answer is yes, then that's when you kind of then move on to, okay, well, now let me evaluate the quarterback individually. If the answer is no, well, then it's kind of like, well, we kind of have to get that situation taken care of. Again, whether it's coaching, whether it's roster, O-line, like whatever the specific situation calls for. Because you can't just be like, well, yeah, we just need a team like the 49ers when they were kind of, again, more in their prime. And then there you go. And it's like, well, that's not the easiest thing either, right? To pretty much have a stacked roster, a cheap quarterback, and a great young offensive head coach. You can't just like be like, okay, let's just build that. Because it's not that simple either. Which is why I think the Minnesota Vikings are such a great example as well. Because I wouldn't say they're stacked. They have a handful of like truly special elite pieces. But they have a great coach who most likely will continue his trajectory and, earn his keep even higher in terms of reputation of offensive mind. Give him a good enough quarterback, and then boom, you are a 13-win team. But I do think to a degree on one side, it feels like it's easier to evaluate quarterback play and what you should expect a quarterback to be able to do. And on the other side, I find myself feeling more confused than I ever have. Because I'm just kind of like, there's certain quarterbacks who I think are truly special and unbelievable, but you give them a banged up O-line and take away their number one weapon, and I'm like, well, that that guy didn't look too good, you know? And then again, and it's just like, and that example of that quarterback, who again, I'm not naming any names, like doesn't really have that great of a coordinator, an offensive head coach. Like, you know, like what am I going to expect him to do? And then you can see another team who has a backup quarterback, but has a brilliant head coach or brilliant offensive mind, and they're able to like make some moves, and they kind of have maybe an extra weapon or two, and you're just like, well, that's interesting. And so it's just always hard to really put into put into context and always make sense of everything. And that's why I started this clip by just being like, well, how do fans feel? The reality though is the problem is that fans, their feelings aren't always correct in terms of when they like something or don't like something. Because like I said, the vast majority of fans really wholeheartedly support their quarterback to the bitter end, to the true bitter end. And I do find that interesting. They're so much more willing to cut loose of a wide receiver, a running back, tight end, an O-line, a head coach. But it's like the quarterback, they really hold on to the end. And it is something that I encourage fans to kind of contemplate and kind of think about a little bit more deeply. Because I don't know why. I understand quarterbacks are like the face of the league and stuff like that. And I could understand why younger fans who are maybe introduced to a team through a quarterback, like if you're younger and Geno Smith has been your quarterback for the last like 10 years and like, you know, that's your guy, that's who it is. And people are saying, nah, he's not good, we got to move on from him. You're like, no, he's not the problem. But I think the vast majority of people who watch these videos are too old for that to be a thing. You know, like you'd have to be a high school age essentially. And I just don't think that's the effect. Not to mention Geno Smith. It's not like Geno Smith has been the quarterback of the Seahawks for 15 years here. So I am curious to see what like the updated views of Geno, if you blame Geno, if you think actually no, Geno's been great. What else do you want him to do? I'm always interested to learn kind of where the fans stand more specifically, because it does seem like you have two kinds of people in this world, and in terms of how people view Geno, they either view him kind of like Colin, he's not that good. Yeah, it's a good story, whatever, move on. Or you have people that say, no, Geno's actually really great quarterback. He just needs a better situation. He just needs better pieces surrounding him. He needs better coaching, etc., etc. Like I think someone like Nick Wright is super high. I think it's Nick is super high on Geno Smith. I don't know 100% why or what his reasoning behind that is. But yeah, probably because he doesn't like the 49ers, but he likes the Rams. So I don't know. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? I almost said the Kansas City Rams. No idea where that came from. The Seattle Seahawks and Geno Smith. Do you think it's time for Seattle to move off of Geno and kind of look for a new quarterback? Do you think that will kind of help this team out? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. It's whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here. I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.